Hey Sea fam, my name is Brandon Miller.
And I'm Brian Ochoa.
Right before the coronavirus lockdown, my wife and I, we've been at a previous church for about 6 years. We both served heavily in the church, but we just felt like God was calling us somewhere else.
I never really had a relationship with God. I'd been to church a few times, but just never really felt the connection there. I've been to a few different churches. My freshman year of high school, my buddy Andrew Madron, he asked me if I could join him to church one afternoon for Momentum. And then at that moment, I was going through I'd really gotten myself into some big trouble about a week before that. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll just go. So I went. I really liked the people there, the environment.
We visited Sea Life for the first time, and it was awesome. We loved the environment. We loved the enthusiasm. We loved the spirit moving. We loved the worship music. My wife and I were both just sold out on the church and sold out on what the body of Christ is doing here. So after the first Sunday that I visited here, I knew that Momentum was coming up on Wednesday. I'd already kind of met with Jeff Hinckley a little bit, told him that I was interested in being involved in the youth department.
The next Wednesday, I met Brandon, and we just sat down, had a conversation.
I definitely saw Brian just standing there kind of by himself. He was kind of looking down at his phone a little bit. Many people were engaged in the room just talking, and I was standing by myself, and I just saw that, and I felt the Spirit of God just pushing me to go and talk to him and just talk to the guy. And we exchanged phone numbers. I told him if he ever needs anything to just night or day, just to give me a call, send me a text, that I'd be there for him in a heartbeat.
We ended up having a conversation, talking, and yeah, we exchanged phone numbers, and from there we just kept in touch throughout the week.
The very next Sunday, I came to church, and my wife was at home with our baby because he wasn't feeling good. So I went to the early service. Awesome message, great praise and worship, man, it was on fire. Then I went straight to Growth Track after that at 10 o'clock, and halfway through Growth Track, Brian texted me and said that he needed a ride to church.
So I woke up that morning, and I was just telling myself, I was like, man, I was starting to feel a connection with God that day, and I felt like he was telling me to go to church. And then I texted Brandon, I was like, hey man, I'm really needing a ride to church.
I was really wanting to go home and see my family and see my son and see my wife, and the flesh was like, it's time to go home. But as soon as I got that text, the Spirit kicked in and was like, no, go and do. And so I just went and got him and just took that giant leap of faith of being obedient to Christ. So I went and picked him up, and we were pulling into the Sea Life parking lot. I was getting ready to turn my truck off, and I just looked over at Brian and I said, do you have a personal relationship with Christ?
I told him no, which honestly I felt a little embarrassed saying no at first.
I didn't go any further or press any further because I already knew what the service was about. So we listened to the service. We sat on the very front row. He was on the edge of his seat the entire time.
When I was on that front row, man, honestly, I just couldn't help myself. I was just so excited. I was ready to get closer to God. I was just ready to put everything aside and just get closer to Him.
And then the service ended. I just saw the brother on the edge of his chair, just pretty much wanting to hear more. And I just grabbed him by the shoulder and took him into that prayer room. And we just talked about Christ and talked about his life and talked about the Roman road to salvation and what sin means. And he just called on the name of the Lord right there at that exact moment. And he professed Christ as his Savior.
And then at that moment, I just had a conversation with God as if he was just in the room with me, and he was, and I was saved.
And I could tell the change instantly as soon as he was talking to Jesus. And it's just pure joy to see someone experience salvation or encounter Christ for the very first time. Brian even asked Jeff if it would be okay if I baptized him, which I thought was pretty cool that he would even consider me for something like that.
He's just been there step by step next to me, watching me grow. Hopefully coming in August, he baptizes me,
I'm so thankful that I listened to the Spirit, and I went and talked to Brian, and that I followed through with my commitment of saying that I'll be there for him and picking him up. And it's just amazing to sit back and watch God's work just unfold right before your eyes.
So if Brandon hadn't taken me to church that day, honestly, I feel like I wouldn't have had the relationship I have with God at this moment. So God has really changed my life. And Jesus to me he's everything to me. He gave up his life for us. Jesus he's absolutely just everything to me.
So if I was going to sum this whole thing up in just a few words, I would just say that when your flesh is telling you one thing, disregard whatever that is and listen to the Spirit, because the Spirit's always right. He'll never lead you astray. He led me in the right spot. He led Brian in the right spot. And I'm just so thankful that his life is now changed forever because of the Spirit.